up, peeps? Hi, engineer. I'm so glad you're on. So glad you're on. Thank you for joining. I'm here for the no contact order hearing. I don't think that that's going to be heard today. However, I am going to bring up to the judge the fact that Adam Paulson from the Marion, Iowa Police Department put my children and I in imminent danger as a mandatory reporter, him along with 4 other officers. I actually have mentioned Adam Paulson in my filings regarding in the Pelly case already about how he retaliates. So that and some other things. Yep, engineer, we are at the Linn County Crime House. Hello. All right, guys, I'm going to put you in here. I remember you. You've always been very kind to me, and I appreciate that.
You need any help, or is it metal at all?
Nope, it's made it through. So.
You go through. You do you. It's easier when you know.
Yeah. All right, peeps. Room I'm in here, and I'll show you kind of some of the stuff I have. My hearing's not till 1:30. I did not get approval to film the hearing, which is fine. I'm going to address that today. I've been going back and forth with the Gazette coordinator on that. So, yeah. Trying to figure out here. Hey, Dee, thank you. Appreciate it. I will be discussing what the Marion Police Department did to victimize my family. They put my children in imminent harm. They left us in imminent harm. I've already talked about Adam Paulson quite a bit. So I've got Bessler in 1H. So I believe that'd be on the bottom floor. Is that correct, Dee? Yeah, keep eyes on me. They are definitely, there's some, what they did this weekend, I mean, I'll tell you guys this. You guys have seen what happened with the father of my children, but there's more to it than that. I don't justify his actions towards me, but this was a very sophisticated psychological attack from the city of Marion, no doubt. They know what they're doing. My tripod is kind of broken because who knows? So here's what I've got, just some notes about what I'm going to explain to the judge. There's just no way that we're going to be able to go over the no contact order hearing today. It's going to have to get continued, but I do want to make sure it's on the record what the Marion Police Department did. Like I said, they put my children in imminent danger, imminent harm on purpose. They did not follow federal guidelines when it comes to domestic violence calls. They didn't follow Iowa law. They violated a bunch of policies within here, the Marion Police Department's code of conduct. When they come out for a domestic violence call, they're supposed to give you resources. They're supposed to give you, number one, the phone number to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They did not do that. There's also a crisis coordinator that the city of Marion has hired. They're supposed to come out, especially for families that are facing emotional distress or mental health crises, which that's just ultimately what happened is my spouse was suffering a mental health crisis 6 days later based on everything that had occurred. And that's why my daughter and I actually called the police and allowed them to come in to check on the mental health of my spouse. And they ended up saying that they were assaulted by him. So they wouldn't arrest when I was saying that I felt threatened, but they wouldn't even ask him to leave, but they didn't do that. But yeah, they also didn't call their liaison, which this is actually what BaeSym is about. The reason I went to City Council, you guys, originally on January 4th of 2024, was because of the way the Marion Police Department was handling domestic violence calls, believe it or not. This is correspondence I have with one of their officers from back in June where I started researching this. I've been working on this for a long time. If you guys remember the meeting on January 18th, my daughter actually spoke, in addition to me, both of us in front of Adam Paulson. So that's interesting. And then he's the one that basically came and said that my spouse, while he was clearly, it looks like he was definitely angry, and my understanding he had been drinking, which he had been sober for 5 years. He shouldn't be drinking, but I don't justify, but I understand that he was going through some things. Chad Pelly is suing me right now. Here's the main things he says about me. Defendant Simmons posted on Facebook, "Imagine what this guy has done that has never been reported." Defendant Simmons then posted, "No one would stand a chance making a complaint about this guy to the Marion Police Department," falsely implying collusion between Chad and Marion Police Department. The reason that I said that is because I have been denied service. My clients have been denied service. Targeted individuals are denied service by the Marion Police Department. So if I personally were to call and make a report, I don't believe that they would help me with Chad Pelly. They wouldn't even help me when it was my own spouse. So I don't think that that's an invalid statement. I have multiple instances where I called the Marion Police Department. They don't even answer my phone calls. I have it recorded. And then, of course, you guys saw where the dispatcher hung up on me. So, then we have this. Defendant Simmons falsely posted on Facebook that Chad was going to hurt someone, that it's dangerous, that the City of Marion leaders are protecting Chad and allowing Chad to intimidate people on City of Marion leaders' behalf. I feel like that's exactly what happened to me the other night. If you guys were on the live the other night, they knew that my spouse was not in a good place mentally. They knew that he was committing crimes towards me, or at least harassing me. And they just allowed him to continue to do that on their behalf. So I don't understand what this lawsuit's about. So I've been trying to get help from Chad Pelly and his little squad since October 22nd in this court, because this has been used as an excuse to follow my daughter around. That's what's been happening. For a little bit, I thought that, it was innocent. No, it's not innocent. Here's my motion to dismiss that hasn't been replied to yet by the judge. This was filed November 14th, and I actually mentioned Adam Paulson in here. I also mentioned that Adam Paulson is Ryan Waller's next door neighbor. The city manager makes about $205,000 per year, right next door to him. You really think that's a coincidence? The fact that Adam Paulson came out and told Dee that he was under investigation after he made a complaint, that Adam Paulson was present when my daughter and I spoke at city council, and that Adam Paulson just so happens to live next to the city manager, and Adam Paulson just so happened to be the one that told my spouse that, oh, it doesn't matter if your spouse has gotten in your face and made you feel afraid. We're not going to ask him to leave. I even said, my teenage daughter is afraid to come home right now, and Adam said, that's not domestic violence. And I'm like, yeah, it is. She's a resident here. Domestic violence laws state that you need to find out who the primary aggressor is. At that point, it is their responsibility to say, hey, you need to either leave the house for the night or we're going to take you for domestic violence. And let the judge figure it out. That's the way the laws are written. Domestic violence calls are the most dangerous calls that a law enforcement officer will go on. It's the most common call as well. It's a common thing. People don't realize that domestic violence is more than just putting your hands on someone. That's where it escalates to. So Iowa law allows you to enforce domestic violence laws before things escalate to that point. But not if you're me. Not if you're me, not if you're my kids. And this is what I mean when I say that they don't care about children. Like, they'll go after your children too. They don't care. Here's my second motion that hasn't been responded to in the Pelley case back on December 6th, explaining the misconduct. They won't let me film any of my proceedings. They say I don't follow, or that I don't qualify under Iowa law as news media, but I do. So I've got this letter from the news media guy. This is like the fourth case he's denied me in. So I'm going to try to get that taken care of. Here's a funny thing. So I filed this on January 3rd against Chad Pelley. The last straw for me was my daughter came home and there was a white Tesla that she recognized to be him with the same girl that we recognized to be the one that he's been seen around town with. And yeah, my daughter came home with one of her teenage friends who was a witness, and there was a white Tesla parked on our dead-end street. And once she pulled up, he pulled into a driveway where there's nobody living there, and then sped off. So I filed that, and then 2 days later on Sunday is when Adam Paulson was at my house. And there's a lot of other things that happened to my spouse, Corey, before that I'm going to save. But there's a lot more than what meets the eye. A lot that I didn't even understand was going on at the time of the incident. And then, yeah, we've got some house and business listings that lead me to believe that someone is fleeing. I think any reasonable person would believe that this seems to me that someone is attempting to leave. There is a temporary no contact order in place, so if we continue, that's okay. I just need them to know what the Marion Police Department is doing. I need it on the record. I don't know that it's going to stop it. It might actually make it worse, but like it always does, but at least it's on the record. So it's kind of like what Dee says, even if you were to get rid of me by bodily harm, you'll never silence me, because I'm going to make sure that there's records of everything. But yeah, you see, here's the law, all right, for domestic violence right here. So domestic abuse is assault between family or household members who reside together at the time of the assault. So that obviously would cover my daughter and myself. It also has to do with like the intent, and yeah, I mean, my spouse was acting aggressive towards me. All I wanted them to do was ask him to leave, and I was within Iowa law for that. So here is basically the law. So like a serious misdemeanor if domestic abuse assault causes bodily injury or mental illness. I have seen people get this charge, the mental illness part, for, say, a man is upset with his wife and he grabs a glass out of the cupboard and throws it at the wall, and that causes her to feel stressed. I've seen people get charged with this. I've seen people get charged with it because they were punching holes in the walls. A man was punching holes in his walls and it scared his significant other. Things like that. Here is A right here. Simple misdemeanor for domestic abuse assault except otherwise provided. This is what's used for officer discretion because, like I said, domestic violence calls are really dangerous. So this allows an officer to arrest someone even if there wasn't a physical assault. So if they believe that the family is in danger if they leave, this is where, and they cannot get the aggressor to leave, this is what they should be arresting under, because things can get worked out in court later, but the safety of the children and the family is what's most important. And what I want people to understand is that even my spouse needed help that night. He was in mental distress, and they basically told him, it's legal to break in your house, just break in there. Well, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And by them basically telling him that what he was doing was okay, it just put him on like this I imagine it's probably how Chad Pelly feels. Like, it made him feel untouchable, and it just made his aggression get even worse over the next few days. And like I said, I'm not justifying any of his actions, but I do understand, you know. Here you go. The Federal Domestic Violence Act. Law enforcement officers are required to treat all acts of domestic violence as crimes. This means psychological, emotional, coercive control. That's all domestic violence. You don't have to put your hands on someone to be responsible for domestic violence. They're required to make arrests when probable cause exists, which he did not. They're to screen for potential victim intimidation. I was obviously very intimidated. They are to provide victims with information about available services and support. They did nothing. They didn't give me any information about domestic violence. They didn't give me any information about shelters. They didn't do anything for anybody else in the household. They are to prioritize victim safety, and they did not. And these are serious laws. If you guys remember the Gabby Petito case, her and her boyfriend, there was a domestic violence call. They ended up not separating them, and she ended up being unalived later. You know, it's serious, and this is literally why I went to the city of Marion. When I went on January 4th, I didn't explain this to you guys on YouTube, but I wanted a private conversation. My main concern was the way they were handling domestic violence calls. So it's just very crazy that a year later, almost to the day, they're still handling the calls incorrectly. Hi, Joe. Yeah, I mean, the Marion Police Department, they intentionally provoked and escalated the situation. They knew that my family was in crisis. And literally, my motion to dismiss, I explained that this is what the Marion Police Department does. It's a federal crime, is what they're doing. And that's why they're freaking out so bad. Because they know. They know what they're doing. They just don't want me to know. And they've done this to so many people. That's the only reason I know what they're doing, is because I'm not the first victim. Not even close. They've been doing this for a very long time. Oh, here's a fun one. In line 19, Chad Pelly states, Simmons falsely implies that she and others are being threatened and intimidated for exploring Chad's records. This is not false. I don't share everything I experience online because people are already afraid to come forward. However, I won't imply it in court records. I'll state it as a matter of fact. Since uncovering public records and facts that Mr. Pelly is attempting to suppress, my family and I have received significant and severe harassment, threats, and retaliatory actions made to us. And I mean, this includes, you guys have seen Dee's coverage. My spouse has been a victim of this as well. Even my kids, like they're even coming after my kids. And I said that. If you go back and watch my meeting on January 18th, I literally said that. They'll go after your kids too. That's how ruthless these people are. That's how you know that they've done something really, really bad. The day that we came to get the Pelly records, we got an email from basically a created email address saying, calling my teenage daughter by her name, saying that she's looking good today. Dee's already filed that. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Here's one of the emails that we got. You can just tell that they're trying to bully us out of town. Since Marion police are so dangerous and the city is so corrupt, leave. We don't want you here. We don't want your friends here. We don't want your family here. And we especially don't want your kids here. You're unwanted and unwelcome. It's time to go. You couldn't afford your house when you were leeching off your low-wage husband, so you certainly can't afford it now. USC 241, conspiracy against rights. Section 241 makes it unlawful for two or more persons to agree to injure, threaten, or intimidate a person in the United States in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured by the Constitution or laws of the United States because of his or her having exercised such rights. So me speaking out